Right guys, on today's video I'm going to be showing you how to do metal stud work. I'm going to be comparing the DeWalt against the Huepar. You're not going to believe the results guys. This is an absolute game changer. Keep watching. Okay guys, for today's job I'm going to be putting up this metal stud framing along this wall. Now for the past couple of days me and James have been prepping and getting the metal stud frame ready to go in this basement. It's going to be lining the entirety of this basement. The reason we're doing it this way, we felt it was going to be a much better and cleaner job than dotting and dabbing, because with metal framework, because it's machined up, it's perfectly straight, perfectly plumb, as long as it's been prepped right. And we just thought it would just be a lot easier for the plumbers, electricians, and also just for final finish. So that's how we're going to do it. So today I'm going to be taking you through how to put the top and bottom railing, the uprights. Also we're going to be reviewing the new Huepar laser that they've sent us. Usually I'm a DeWalt man, so a little bit sceptical about it, but just going to try it out, see how I get on with it, and we'll do a bit of an A and B comparison and just see which one's the better machine at the end of the day. The first part of the process is the installation of the top and bottom rail. Now as you can see, we've put this strip of fireboard in and it's been sealed with the intermittent mastic. Now this is to create a seal between the top and bottom floor in case of event of any fire. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say, why haven't you boarded the whole thing first? Now, unfortunately, we're waiting on the Sparky and the plumber. They're not ready for us yet, and this is just a way of us being able to get our stud work in, get it all ready for them, and then we can board up to it afterwards. People will probably say it's not the right way to do it. It's just a way of being able to push forward while we wait for other trade. That's the reason why we've done that. First part, base rail. Second part, top rail. So that's what I'm going to be installing first. These walls run at a different level, but what we want to do, because there's cardine flooring going in, is make sure that the step back runs consistent. So we're not going to be measuring off the wall equal distances from point A to point B. We're using this line on the floor, which runs perfectly true with this existing base rail, and we're going to measure back to that so we make sure that the distance is completely parallel. Because what we don't want to do is when we're installing our cardine flooring is for there to be a tapered cut. Anyone who's done this plank flooring detail will know that if you have a tapered cut, it doesn't look very good, it just looks rubbish. Okay, so what I do is get myself a little offcut of the base rail that we're going to be installing. I like to come about between 10 and 15 mil away from the wall. What this allows us, because this is such an old wall, I know for a fact, because I've already stuck a level on it, but it's a little bit, there's bulges in it and it's not true. So this will just give us that little bit of adjustment so that we know we're always going to be able to get over any indiscrepancies in the wall. So, gonna, like I say, just about ½ inch. Then I'm going to mark my line. Then from that, I'm going to measure to the string line that I've pinged. Now that's 250 mil. Come to my other end, measure 250. Just double check that, make sure I'm happy with it. 250. 250. So then, got my base rail here. I'm going to use that as a straight edge. I know that these are perfectly straight. Point A, point B. Just make sure I'm happy with that. Okay, so there we go. That line's all the way through. As you can see, the line here is consistent. It does taper away from the wall a bit, but like I say, it's about keeping this parallel so that when we run our planks in, we're not going to have the tapered cut. So, get my tape measure. I'm going to leave my base rail oversized a little bit. This will just give me a bit of freedom in case they want to sort of like reduce the doorway opening, or maybe they want to put a door in there. I know that there's been some discussion, so I'm not entirely sure what the final decision is. So what I'll do, cut it at 2.1, and that'll just give me my little bit of freedom for adjustment. So over to the bench. So anyway, going to cut this base rail to size, going to cut it to 2.1 metres. Trusty Sharpie, 2.1, mark. Square. And that's lovely. So, I'm just going to put a mark there. Now, as well as hammer fixing this down to the ground, I'm going to use a bit of our OB1 product. I've found that it grabs hold of it really, really well. Multi-construction adhesive, sealant and adhesive. Absolutely brilliant stuff this is. Glues anything to anything. I'm going to end it about here because in case I want to cut any of it back. So that's the reason I'm doing that. Just line it, get it on the line. That's pretty much spot on there. So, next step, hammer fixing. Got our combi drill. Now for this, we're using Bosch multi-construction drill bits. Now these things are absolutely fantastic. They're sharp as you like, and you don't have to put them on hammer drill to go through screed like this because they're that sharp. And this has been a real godsend on this, because the reason being, because we're quite close to the edge of the slab, we were worried about it breaking, but because we don't have to use this on a hammer setting, it just goes through this like butter and it doesn't vibrate, so the concrete isn't going to, the screed isn't going to break. So that was a really good bit, that was. Send it home. In the middle, about. Okay, so that's the bottom rail in. As you can see, I've only put 3 fixings in, along with the adhesive. Now, I'm only going to put that many in at this stage because I've got all the uprights to put in. Now, the finished job will probably be between 7 and 8 fixings, you know, because I really want to button this up and make sure that it's done right. But I don't want it getting in the way of my uprights, because otherwise I'm going to have to start notching it out with the angle grinder, and that's something I don't want to do. But so just to make sure it ain't going anywhere, I'm just going to put 3 fixings in for now and do the same at the top. But after it's all done, it'll get buttoned up properly with a lot more fixings. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to get my laser, the new Huepar. A bit new to this, so bear with me. Don't really know too much about the firm, but they sent us this and they asked us to try it out and tell us to see what we think. As you probably know from past videos, I'm a DeWalt man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm now ready to start installing my top rail. So I'm going to go from the end of my base rail, which is going to project a line to my top rail, and that will give me a point to measure to. So quick line on there. Now we need to make sure that our laser is running bang on in line with our base rail. Now with the Huepar, which costs £300, the DeWalt costs £400. You get this remote control. So really clever feature here is you're able to remotely operate the swivel access on it, which is really, really good. Now over a short distance like this, it's not really that much of a game changer, but when I was using the DeWalt, I was having to laser down this section here, which is nearly 6 metres. Now, it doesn't really seem like much of a task, but when you're trying to get this mill perfect over 6 metres, first problem is my eyes ain't great and I can't see all the way up to the end here. So one of the obvious problems that I have is that I have to see how far out I am and start making micro adjustments and have to keep going back and checking it. Now as you can see, I'm still 10 mil away, gonna have to go back and adjust. Now luckily when I was doing this I had the apprentice to guide me, but if you're working on your own you've got absolutely no chance with this. Now lucky with the Huepar you're able to get it near as damn it. I'll put it on its point of access, halfway point to the laser. I can go up here and you can get it pretty good. Now, just by look, I've been able to get that pretty much on the line. On the remote control, I've noticed that when you press the swivel adjust, that the movement is quite aggressive, but apparently, I haven't got the app on my phone, I haven't been able to install it yet. You can do very fine and minute adjustment, which is going to make it a hell of a lot easier. But it's not really that much of a big deal because you can get it near as damn it on the remote, and then you have this micro adjustment dial just here, and you're able to get it absolutely spot on. So that is one thing I found really, really useful about the Huepar. And as I said before, on the DeWalt, you've only got, on this particular model, you've only got hand adjustment. There are upgrades, or I don't know if you can buy a separate bracket for this where you can get micro adjustment on it, but the fact of the matter is, for the sake of £300 to £400, it's a bit, I think it's a little bit cheeky of DeWalt not to include something like that. Or maybe it's just hats off to Huepar for being able to make something so good at such a low price. So these are the two arguments for it. But obviously DeWalt are a very well established brand. Also, one thing I have found about DeWalt is they're absolutely bulletproof. I've had this, don't get me wrong, I always check it with the spirit level to make sure it's right. I've dropped this off steps, I've dropped it off scaffolds, and touch wood, this thing has survived and it's never ever let me down. So these are the arguments between the two products. You know, this is very all singing, all dancing, but what's it going to be like in 6 months' time when it's been covered in dust and dropped off a couple of ladders? You know, so this is one of the things we have to consider when we're judging the two products. But at the moment, Huepar, as far as value for money and the capabilities of the machine, the fine adjustment, the fact that you get this remote, the fact that you're able to link it to your phone and do fine adjustment for such scenarios as when you're working on your own and you've got big distances to cover, the Huepar's winning hands down at the moment.
What did you say?
So, fair play. As you can see, I'm only doing it over a short distance, so I was able to adjust that by hand. What I'll do now, move to one side, pencil mark, bang on in the centre of that, pencil line, bang on in the centre. Now, what I like to do, take my laser level out the way, get my screw, go in, and very quickly, just ping a line. Now, I know a lot of people will say, what's the point, you've got a laser set up. Fact of the matter is, the laser level's on the floor, things get kicked, and sometimes you're standing in the way of it and you can't see the laser, and, you know, just other stuff like that. So what I just like to do, for the sake of spending 10 seconds, putting a screw in and pinging a line, it gives me a nice solid reference point to go to. So that's my way of doing it. Like I say, I don't do this for a living. This is just something that I do because it works for me. So that's how it is. Go to it. Now that is 2025. So I'm going to get that cut to length now with the angle grinder and then install that, and then we're going to get ready to start putting the uprights in. So, need to line the end up with this line here and line my sign up with that line here. So, I've put a little pilot hole just at this location here. Okay, that's good there and there. Now I've got my first screw in. It's just a case of bringing my track to my string line, sending it home. And once again, just going to put a few fixings in, not going to go too mental with it. Okay, so the next step is for me to start getting my uprights in. So first thing, I'm going to mark the floor out, which is going to be uprights at 400 centres. And then I'm going to start getting some measurements, angle grinding them, and I'll show you how I fit them. So, time to start measuring. Best way to do it, most efficient way to do it, get yourself something to write on. You want to be getting at least 3 or 4 cut, probably 4 to 5 cut at a time, just so that you're not to and throwing from the bench and that. So just let me just need a small hop up. I'm just going to make a note and number these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that'll be my 6. So first one, number 1, 2, 4, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 4, 8. 2, 2, 4, 8. Now, if all of these are within a couple of mil of each other, I'm going to try and make them uniform, but I have noticed that there is a bit of quite a considerable camber in some of these timbers, so I'm going to check them all. And like I say, if I can get them within a couple of mil then and make a uniform cut, then that's what I'll do. But if not, I'll just have to cut them differently. That's not a big deal. It's more important that you get the job done right, isn't it? So yes, so that's a 248, 248, another one at 248. So yeah, so it's looking, by look, these are nice and consistent, which is going to be an absolutely massive help for us, because like I say, it means that I can just mark them all up at once, get all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cut at once, and I don't have to worry about numbering them up. I can just get them in, get them done, and that'll be right. I need 6 uprights. There's my first 3. There's 5. There's the 6th one. Okay, so 2248 times 6 of. Okay, so the first one marked up. Get the PPE on. I'll make that my template for the next one. Okay, there's 2 done. Those are my 6 uprights cut and ready to go. Now, when you're handling this stuff, I do recommend that you use gloves. Now me, I've been doing building work on and off for 20 years, so I'm quite confident about handling this stuff with a burr on it, but just be aware that when you cut this stuff, regardless of whether you use an angle grinder or whether you use tin snips, this is like a razor, so please just be careful with it. The next thing I'm going to need are my fixings, which are a 13mm self-drilling zinc plated screw. As you can see, they have a drill bit head on them. This makes it nice and easy for it to go through the top and bottom rail and into the stud. So these are really, really good. I don't need a massive amount because, as I say, I'm only doing 6 studs, but these are a PH head, so get the PH head into my cordless. Going to get the first one in. Now, one thing I do like to do is I always like to put the holes closest to the bottom. The reason I'm doing this is because we have to consider that there's worktops. I think there's worktops and cupboards going all the way around here, so I like to put them at this level, because if there aren't cupboards going here, then it's enough room to get the sockets in low level. If there are worktops going in around here, then they've got room to feed the wires through to put sockets over the top of the worktop. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm putting them around this way. If you had sort of like wall lights or something like that going on, you'd tip them up the other way so that it'd give you Sparky a chance to feed his wires where we wanted them. Okay, so we're going to have holes to the bottom. This first one I'm going to install. Now, I'm just going to put this, get this nipped in at the bottom, screw on, come flush with the end. Okay, so going to get my laser now and ping my line. So as you can see, just it needs to be knocked in a bit. You can use your finger just to highlight it. That is absolutely spot on now. Perfectly plumb, perfectly plumb, perfectly plumb. You can see checking all the way up that that's bang on the money, which is what we're looking for. Now I've plumbed this up, I'm going to take my measurements and start going 400 centres. Put my marks down at the bottom. Now, the reason why I didn't put my marks down at the top is because I wanted to wait until I'd plumbed this first one up, and then as soon as I know this one's spot on, when I mark my 400 centres, I know the rest of them are going to be absolutely bang on the money. So, once again, it's not something you have to do, but it's a personal recommendation. This is how I like to do it. 400 on the X. 800 on the X. 1200, mark. And then 16. And then this last one will just sit as far into the corner as it possibly can. So, all we need to do It goes in at the side, then goes in at the angle. That's all ready to go. So, fixings. And get it in. Now this end one here, I'm going to leave that floating. Now the reason why we've left this bit out for now is because this window hasn't been installed yet. So what we want to do is we're going to fit the window, get that spot on, and because we want our cheeks and our reveals to be identical, we're holding fire on putting these this track in and this track in. So I'm going to leave that floating. So that'll enable me to, that'll give me the freedom so I know that my intersection point is spot on. So just for the sake of leaving that, it's just going to save me a job at a later date. It just saves me having to unscrew it basically. Okay, and that's that. Now, I will be putting some screws in at the back, but not at this point in time because we need to get some self-tappers to start to stick to spike into the metal because what we have noticed is that the self-drillers aren't too good at being drilled in at the angle, but the self-tappers are, so that's the reason we're leaving that for now. Okay, so as you can see, these are all nice and buttoned up. Now, probably don't need to check it, but obviously the OCD kicks in and you're never going to get anything better than old school, are you? So just going to check my uprights. And they're absolutely on the money, they are. So I know that that's all nice and plumb. They're working to your 400 centres, so that my plasterboard's going to be able to screw straight to it without any, without having to be cut down. So that's another good thing, that is. Okay, so that's it for this video. As you can see, I've shown you how to put in bottom rail, top rail, and get the uprights plumb. So next stage is to get our mid supports in, so that's going to be something that we're going to do at a later date. We'll have some footage of that and we'll have something a little bit more comprehensive for you. Okay, so we've had our comparison between my DeWalt and the new Huepar that they've given us. Now, I have to say, I've been really impressed with this machine. It's, like I say, it's got a lot more capabilities than the DeWalt. It's cheaper than the DeWalt. I'm not overly sure on how sturdy it's going to be, because like I say, this DeWalt has had some serious punishment. This hasn't. This is brand new, and much as I do like this machine, I can't help but think maybe in a couple of years' time, this is still going to be going and this isn't. So that's just my personal opinion. There's no disrespect to how it's made. I just think that DeWalt have a reputation for making really tough tools. So would I buy one? Yes, I would. I really like the remote control, like I say, because when you're working on your own and you need to make fine adjustments to get this to laser down lines like I showed you earlier on in the video. This is absolutely second to none. Like I say, DeWalt do ones, I think, with fine adjustment on them, but you're talking probably between 500 and 600 quid for a decent one. So for the cost of it and what you get, this is absolutely spot on. Like I say, if you're in the trade or if you're just, I mean, to be fair, even for a DIYer, 300 quid isn't a massive amount of money to spend on something like this, and it's absolutely superb. So I'd just like to say a big thank you to Huepar for sending this to us. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I wish them all the best. Thank you.